Hey everyone, it's Mike here, and today I just wanted to talk a little bit about and share my first impressions of the Pocket. This is RadioMaster's latest and greatest budget compact radio. That comes in two different versions. There's the ELRS version, which is what I have here, and that's only $65. And then there's one that's even cheaper, the CC2500 version, and that's $55. CC2500, that's if you're going to be flying mostly old FrSky stuff, and I think Futaba FHSS is supported by the 2500. And in both cases, you can always just add an external module to fly whatever protocol that you want, this nano-sized module. So either way, you're pretty much set. And there are two different colors you can get. There's this transparent one, and there's also a charcoal, like a smoked gray version. And then you can get some more colorful cases if you want to go even further with the color options. But one thing I liked about the transparent one, and the reason I got the transparent one, is that the transparent one has a sort of matte or satin finish, kind of a texture on it, whereas the charcoal and the other colored cases are just glossy and shiny, which I didn't think would be as nice to hold as this version, so I got the transparent one. And also I think the transparent one looks pretty cool, especially with the LEDs, which I'll show you in a second. So first, let's just go around the radio a little bit, see what it has. So you got two small but pretty decent Hall sensor gimbals, so they should stay very precise over time. Pretty small, but totally fine size display. There, and you got your typical RadioMaster 6-button navigation and a pretty nice feeling scroll wheel. Actually, I think this feels a little bit better than the one that's on the Boxer, even though it's plastic. And the one on the Boxer is metal. I think this one feels pretty nice, feels pretty precise. And then on the bottom, you've got the headphone jack, USB-C for charging, and then the micro SD slot. And then on the top, you got a nice folding antenna, which also rotates for different radiation patterns. And then you got two latching switches, which stay in when you press them, and then two low-profile switches, and then a momentary switch here, and then a slider with a really nice amount of resistance. No center detent, but it does beep when it's turned on. So yeah, nice resistance on there, that's good. Won't be moving out of position easily. So let's see, back to the front, you've got these pretty nice feeling trim switches. So this is a totally suitable controller for planes. We have the trims here, so that's very easy to access. And also, speaking of planes, this I actually really like this layout because of the way this momentary switch is. If you're like me, like to fly DLGs, and DLGs generally have a launch mode, and you launch those planes with your right hand, so it's really handy to be able to hold this button, hold this switch while you launch it, and then release it once it gets up to altitude. So that's pretty much perfect. So let's go around to the back. There's the nano module that I mentioned before. And also this another nice feature of this radio is that it takes full-size 18650 cells, which are very common and should last for a good long time, many, many hours of runtime. And you just lift off, and you can remove this, or you can just lift up this little rubber grip area. And also this is where you can access their adjustments for the gimbal tension, which you can do right through the case. So you just look for the correct hold, so in the manual. And also one thing to note, when I bought these batteries, I kind of didn't think too much about them and bought the kind of 18650 cells without the button sticking out on top, so just the flat cells, but it still works just fine. This thing, the tap comes down far enough, so that works totally fine. And then finally, you can take these, remove these sticks, and store them right here in the back. So that's super convenient. Now, once you have that, you fold down the antenna. See, it's incredibly compact, easy to hold, easy to pack away. And I mean, it's easy to pack away even without doing that. But that's just one extra stage of compactness that I think will be very welcome by some. But it also means that these sticks aren't really adjustable for height or anything. But I find them to be at a good height. Although I'm sure there will be third parties that will offer optional sticks for this, and I'm sure you can also find ways to extend these if you wanted to. Yeah, so anyway, that's just a quick look at the outside, and then now let's turn it on. You can see one of the other party tricks of this radio.
Welcome to HTX. Switch warning.
Like then you have this backlight, you can see the power light, and also these switches up here. When you press them, little lights come on to indicate that they're depressed. You know, obviously in your goggles you're not going to see any of that stuff, but it's kind of nice that it's there anyway. So let me turn off the light for a second. You can see this thing in its full effect. Pretty cool, I think. So just a closer look at the screen. Nice size screen, no complaints there. Totally legible, of course, and easy to see in the sunlight, this kind of LCD. So now let's just do a quick sort of size comparison with some other radios. I think people might be interested in that. I guess I'll turn it off but there's a good look at the lights. Pretty neat. So here, first of all, take a look at it next to a Tango 2. So I can see the Tango 2 is quite a bit wider, although you can see obviously RadioMaster took a lot of inspiration from the top of the Tango 2 with the rotating and folding antenna. And these low profile switches I think are just absolutely identical. Might even come from the same vendor or something, but they look and feel the same. So there's the Tango 2 comparison, and then here's a quick comparison with a game controller. You can see how small this thing really is. So here it is with a little 2D gamepad, about like that. And then finally the main comparison is next to a Boxer. So here we got a RadioMaster Boxer, and you can just see the size difference is rather striking. This thing looks all of a sudden gargantuan. Next to the Pocket, you can see there's a huge difference in size. I mean, this is like half the volume of the Boxer. So that's great when you're packing this thing away, but also it does mean that this thing feels a little bit different in the hand, and I'll talk about that here. So the Boxer, nice, basically a full-size radio, and great feeling gimbals. I think the gimbals on the Pocket, although they are Hall sensor, don't feel quite as nice. Maybe they're just a little bit more mushy, but I'm just kind of nitpicking there. They do feel totally adequate. I think they will hold up over time. But one thing I was noticing is that, I mean, there's definitely, I think, a slight sacrifice in ergonomics with this super tiny size, and I think I've come to the conclusion that it has to do with the angle of your wrist. So when you have a full-size radio like this, or a bigger radio, and you're holding it, I find that my arm and my hand are just more in a straight line, and it just feels more sort of comfortable and relaxed. Feels more natural, let's say. But on something like this Pocket, which is so compact, I think what happens is you tend to have this bend between your hand and your arm, which is what makes it feel a little bit sort of cramped up, because your arms are kind of out like this and your hands are out like this. Because I was wondering why the Boxer just felt kind of more natural and comfortable in the hand, and I think it's because of this angle that you have to hold this at, because it's so tiny and your hands are so close together without being like this. So, but you can totally get used to it, and I had a couple of test flights today with this, and the first flight was a little bit wobbly compared to how I usually fly with the Boxer, but I think by the second pack it was already feeling more natural. But if you're just going back and forth between a Boxer or a Tango or something bigger, you will notice that sort of slightly cramped feeling, but I think you can get over that if you're really interested in a small radio. I don't have a Zorro with me. I have used it, but I don't have it with me. But yeah, I think the Zorro is also quite a bit wider than this. I think ideally I would have made this maybe 10 or 15% wider, just to get a little bit more relief from this sort of a hand position. But then it wouldn't be the exact same super compact radio that it is now. So overall, I think this thing is great. The quality feels incredibly nice for $65, and it's totally fully featured. Maybe it has less output power than something bigger, but I think for 90% of the people this is going to have more than enough range. I think the button configuration is great, and in fact for me it's perfect, since I do fly planes also in addition to quadcopters, so it's got a great set of buttons and switches, and I love all the low profile stuff. I love how there aren't switches sticking out. You can just throw this in a bag and stuff's not going to all your switches aren't going to go crazy every time you move this thing around, so that's great. But yeah, I think there are some people that I think you know who you are, that this is just going to be too small and you're not going to be interested in anything like this with these kind of small gimbals compared to a Boxer. Depends how much you care about having a compact setup, but in general, I like small things, which is I like, things like the Pico. I don't like to have big quads and big controllers, so I think this is just a terrific combination, and I think I'll keep flying with this. So a quick look at the RadioMaster Pocket. If you have any questions, please leave them below, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.